Happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Murders, Mysteries, and More. My name's Kaylee.
And my name is Desi.
If you haven't... Oh my god. Okay, let's try this again.
No!
Haven't subscribed, be sure to hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell next to the subscribe button to turn on post notifications. Before we get into this case, we always encourage those who have useful information to any unsolved case, please report it to your local police and sheriff department.
Sometimes we all wish we could rob a museum and get away with it. After all, some hold a very valuable pieces that could solve all of our financial problems. Today we will be diving into the mystery of the Gardner Museum heist.
The history of the Gardner Museum. So the Gardner Museum was constructed under the guidance of Isabella Stewart Gardner. She was an art collector and she wanted this museum to house her personal art collection. The museum opened to the public in 1903. Gardner continued to expand her collection until her death in 1924. The museum was left with a $3.6 million endowment. Isabella's will stipulated that the arrangements of the artwork should not be altered and no items were to be sold to auction or purchased into the collection. In the 1980s, the museum was running low on funds. This left the museum in poor condition and it lacked a climate control system, insurance policy, and was in need of basic building maintenance. After the FBI uncovered a plot by Boston criminals to rob the museum allocated funds to improve security. So they installed 60 infrared motion detectors and closed-circuit television system consisting of 4 cameras were installed. There were no cameras inside, but additional security guards were hired. Personally, I would have put cameras inside if it were me. I don't know what they were thinking about only putting outdoor cameras. And the museum was in the midst of updating their system when they got robbed. I feel like every time a place gets robbed, they're updating their damn system.
Talk about fucking bad timing though.
Yeah, get your shit together, people.
Get your stuff together. But the events that transpired for this museum heist, this was on March 18th, 1990. 2 inexperienced guardsmen were on duty that night. The first one being Richard Abbott, which I'm gonna forewarn you, this man is a dumbass.
He is.
He was a music school dropout and was part of a rock band. The second one being Randy Heston, who was a newbie to the night shift. This was like his first night doing night shift, so that sucks for him. Richard would either show up drunk or stoned to his job after his concerts because he performed in a band during the day.
I feel like we always have that one coworker that shows up drunk or stoned.
Or is just a fucking idiot.
Right.
Yeah. But on the night of the robbery, Abbott insists that he was sober, quote unquote. I don't know if I believe this guy. But at 12:54 a.m., a fire alarm went off on the second floor. This was proven to be a false alarm as there was no fire. 1:24 a.m., 2 men dressed as policemen buzzed into the security front desk where Abbott was at. These men stated that they were responding to a disturbance call and demanded to be let in. Around this time, there were St. Patrick's Day parties happening in the neighborhood, so this was obviously not uncommon. Richard also said that he wanted to avoid being arrested because he had tickets to see Grateful Dead later that day.
Which I've heard they're really good.
Yeah, but I mean, still, this guy's an idiot.
He is. Richard buzzed the 2 policemen into the employee entrance, which was a violation of protocol, by the way. One of the policemen told him that he looked familiar and that they may have a warrant for his arrest. They demanded that he come out from behind the desk to provide identification. Of course, this man complied, which was a huge mistake. It was a huge mistake because his desk was the only one that contained a panic button. If he was able to press that panic button, then all this art could have been saved.
Yep.
They forced him against a wall, spread his legs, and then handcuffed him. At the time, Heston walked into the room and he was thrown against the wall and handcuffed. Heston asked why he was being arrested. The policeman responded, "You're not being arrested. This is a robbery. Don't give us any problems and you won't get hurt." He responded, "Don't worry, they don't pay me enough to get hurt." Which I feel
Fact.
like a lot of jobs don't pay us enough for the amount of crap we have to put up with.
Yeah.
And then motion detectors revealed that the robbers went up to the second floor and split up. During the heist, an alarm went off to warn the guards that someone gotten too close to one of the paintings. They found this alarm and smashed the shit out of it.
2:28 a.m., the robbers returned to the security desk to check on the guards they had incapacitated. Then they removed tapes that captured their movements outside the side door and in the museum. After this, they took 2 separate trips to place all the artwork they stole in their vehicle. Witnesses recall seeing the thieves near the museum sitting in a red hatchback. Approximately 6:45 up until 8:16 a.m., the morning guards showed up to work, unable to enter the museum, which prompted them to call the police. Around 8:30, police show up and discover the night guards still handcuffed in the basement. Poor idiots. The thieves did not cover their faces, but they did wear gloves, so no fingerprints were left behind. Unfortunate for the FBI. What's even worse about this is Richard Abbott could not recall what the men looked like, even though he was the one who let them in and he was staring at them the whole fucking time.
Yeah, he should have known.
Yeah. 1994, the museum received a letter from an anonymous source that stated they knew where those stolen pieces were and that a buyer in another country could purchase them at any time. The writer asked for $2.6 million for facilitating the return of the artwork and had extensive knowledge about the stolen pieces and the art world itself. The museum received a second letter weeks later, which stated that the author was pleased they were interested in negotiating, but was discouraged by the local law, state, and federal police getting involved. The writer wondered if they were trying to arrest the middleman involved and stated, "You cannot have both," in all caps.
But I want both.
Yeah, unfortunately, they didn't find too much evidence outside of all this stuff, so.
So into suspects. Suspect number 1, Brian McDevitt. So Brian committed a similar art robbery in the 1980s. He stole a FedEx truck and doused the driver with ether. He wore the FedEx uniform and carried duct tape. He planned to bind museum employees up at the Hyde Collection in Glens Falls, New York, and cut the paintings out of the frame. Funny enough, McDevitt and his accomplices got stuck in traffic and arrived after the museum closed, which made all of his plans go to shit, and he did not have a backup plan. He should have had a backup plan. Come on.
Yeah.
Brian served a few months in jail for conspiring to rob the museum. Brian lived only 10 minutes from the Gardner Museum. He was questioned by the FBI in 1992 and later in front of the grand jury. His attorney told all of that he knew absolutely nothing about this. There wasn't even enough evidence to charge him for the crime, unfortunately.
This guy just,
He got away with it.
Yeah, no, really
Successful heist. Like PayDay.
Yeah, right? But into the second theory, of course, is that this was an inside job, which seems more likely, to be honest. But it would explain how the thieves knew where the only panic button was in the museum, because that's only something the guards would have knowledge of. And this will also explain their knowledge about the artwork not having anti-theft devices, which ordinary thieves wouldn't know that shit. Unless, they sketted it out before, but even then, they'd get caught, more than likely. FBI states that Richard Abbott still has not been ruled out as a suspect for this crime. The man couldn't even remember the robbers' faces, even though he was the one who let them in. The motion sensors also didn't record the thieves stealing a piece on the first floor, but did pick up Abbott's round in that room before the thieves arrived. So that doesn't make any fucking sense.
It does not.
No. Richard broke protocol on 3 separate occasions, 2 of them being on the night before and the night of the heist. He let an unidentified man inside the museum, which Richard supposedly doesn't remember letting this guy inside. and FBI think that this guy was one of the robbers. So
He sounds sus.
yeah, he fucked up big time. Like,
Big time.
big time. Other than that, the only other, like, it's not really a theory, but, like, this guy named Archer Bland says that it could have been small-time thieves that sold paintings to, like
overtime.
gangs, and the gangs could have sold them to, like, the Irish military men,
Interesting.
and that's how they got away with it. But there's, like, there hasn't been any, like, trails or anything like that, and they never found any other, like, yeah, it is. They never found, like, any other evidence except for, like, Arthur Bland got a letter from supposedly an Irish military man that said that he was going to buy these paintings. Other than that, there's no other leads.
I feel like sometimes the FBI makes these wild-ass theories just to get some clout.
Well, this guy, Arthur Bland, he was, like, an undercover art recovery guy, supposedly, for the FBI. And apparently he recovered, like, over $500 million worth of art that was stolen over his career. Yeah.
Crazy.
So, like, the fact that he even suggested this is, like, kind of crazy, but obviously he didn't do his job very well in this case.
Nope.
So
Definitely. Well, and the place was pretty run down.
it was the 90s, you
And
know?
They probably weren't making enough money, so they probably didn't care. They're probably like, well, if this place goes on fire, I don't care.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we don't get paid enough for this bullshit. Like, for real. Tell me about it, bro.
Right. Into Reddit comments. So the first one is posted by, this is a weird name, Your Small Intestine. Do you think the stolen Isabella Stewart Gardner museum paintings will be found in her lifetime? Question mark. I bet my keister that the stolen paintings are neither in someone's basement, attic, abandoned speakeasy in Southie, or hung up on someone's walls. Orca, what do you think?
Oh, this guy, feisty donkey. I actually saw a talk on this a month ago, and they're pretty certain they're stashed somewhere. There's a good book about art theft written by the director of security, Presley Gardner, actually. Stealing Rembrandts. Interesting. Yeah. Your small intestine again says, I can picture it so vividly. Someone's stinky basement on West 3rd Street next to a broken washing machine wrapped up in collecting dust. I'm gonna lose my mind if that ends up being the case.
To be fair, a lot of paintings end up that way.
Yeah, which is, I mean, like,
It's kind of sad.
because they're valuable. Like, that's wild. Oh, this person eStreet_ says, I work there. Our director of security still has a line open for people to give info, but the trail has been closed for so long, it's all just crazy people trying to get a little bit of their reward money. I don't see any way those paintings ever turn up. Honestly, I bet they were at least halfway destroyed in the heist itself. The guys just cut the Rembrandts right out of the frames and rolled them up.
Sherbert Equivalent 66 says, the Boston Mafia guys who were the leading suspects in the theft were all killed. It's possible that the person who knows where they are hidden is dead, which could be the case. Some of the paintings were cut out of their frames very roughly. It's possible that the people who took them weren't knowledgeable in how to handle / store artwork that is 400 years old and that is badly damaged / destroyed.
Bro, this person has a point. Attila the Nun. I worked at the Gardner for 8 years. If any of the paintings or objects stolen are somewhere that someone is aware of, then they're dummies for not turning any of them in. The statute of limitations is up. You can return any of them, no questions asked, and collect the portion of the reward allocated to each item. The total is up to 10 million, but they each have an individual value from that total. So, more than likely, they are somewhere that someone has no clue where they are.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Bro, I would turn them in.
Yeah, I would for sure.
Sharp Cookie 232 says, I still like this theory. Whitey Bulger orchestrated it. He knew the police would be busy with the St. Patrick's Day parade. He had paid off or planted the Gardner's guards. He got the paintings out of the museum and over to someone at Logan. He had someone fly with them to over to Ireland. The IRA took custody of them and either sold them or stashed them away. They have a colorful history of stealing very high-profile artwork. Yeah.
Marco Buendotzi, however you say that,
No.
says, I remember taking a trip to Vermont a few years ago when I was in college with some friends, and some random old dudes at the bar started talking to us, telling us stories about his past, and he asked if we've ever been to Isabella Stewart. We went to Emmanuel, so we were right next door, and we heard about it, but didn't really care for it, so we said no. He eventually got around to telling us how he had been involved in this heist years ago with some other people, and that they stashed the paintings away in some cabin up north. We were drinking, so we didn't really care to hear more about the story, and then we eventually left. Of course, after coming back to Boston and looking into it, we were kind of blown away, but it's always funny. It's always a funny memory when somebody brings up the heist. That's crazy that they could have potentially talked to somebody involved in it.
Yeah, Stephen A. Eisenhood, based on the Netflix documentary, it really seems like the cops just took it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they were dressed as cops.
Maybe they were cops dressing as cops.
Right, imagine
Conception?
that. Okay, so the next one is by Danny Dutch. $500 million worth of art stolen in 81 minutes. This is the Gardner Museum heist, the biggest art heist in history. Parentheses, and as far as I'm aware, still unsolved.
This person's username, I came, I saw, I conquered.
Oh my gosh.
Art heists always fascinate me. How do you go about selling authentic art to presumably rich and sophisticated buyers, knowing there is such a risk on both sides of the transaction?
Yeah, you gotta be smart about it.
Yeah, you do. But, I mean, like, these guys, I mean, they weren't not smart, but also, like, you know.
It reminds me a lot of the PayDay art gallery heist, because, like, you have to do that stealthily. If you don't do it stealthily, you're going to fail. So the same applies in real life, which is crazy. Then Vincer says, if video games have taught me anything, is that there's always one vendor in a town, either in a sewer or thieves guild, who will buy stolen goods. That is also true.
Yeah. Oh, God damn it. Josiah Papaya. I don't know. If I remember that one, it's assumed it had to do with the mafia. I don't think these artifacts are going to be found or this case solved, since the main suspects are either dead or close to it. I'm honestly wondering if they ever checked on the owners of the museum to investigate fraud. Good point.
Good
Maybe.
point. Dirt Pink says, but why would someone pay for a piece of art if it is known that it is stolen out of a museum? Say the Mona Lisa. What can they do besides look at it? It's public knowledge what pieces of art are stolen from a museum site. So what is good? What good is it? And then Rune's Core says, they can own it. To a certain type of mind, owning something so valuable and important and keeping it away from the world is worth whatever price or risk they have to pay. Known private art collections are a thing, so we know there are people who are absolutely willing to take a master artwork and lock it away from the world. And then Dirt Pink says, I guess it's a power thing.
Maybe. Ambitious Will 8388. Fuck me. Don't know how much this got talked about in the press. Prior to the robbery, the Gardner Museum was operating at a significant loss. There was significant employee turnover due to cost-cutting measures. There was even talk that it would be sold or shut down. They were known to employ bottom-of-the-barrel security, sometimes even using students instead, and had the bare minimum staff working even when the museum was open as another cost-cutting method. They were warned several times that there was a plot to rob the museum, but they made no effort to improve security. Fucking stupid, bro. The robbery was the best thing that could have happened to a struggling business.
True.
Yeah.
Well,
Wild.
and at least nobody was killed, which most robberies, as long as people comply, nobody actually ends up dying.
Bro, this man, Rocket McZoom, per the FBI sketches I'm going with,
John Lennon and Paul McCartney.
Oh my gosh.
This one. This one, just for lols, the PayDay gang did the heist. Namely, the two heisters involved were Dallas and Hoxton.
Yes, I play Dallas all the time at PayDay, so it was
I
me.
played Joy. I played Joy.
It was me. I stole
Of course it was you. Well, I wasn't part of it.
I wasn't even born then, but I stole it.
I know you did. You traitor. Wow.
Now into the last Reddit post. This is posted by Buck Rowdy. Quotation marks, this is a robbery, is Netflix's latest doc on Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist. Share your thoughts with us in this general discussion for the series. They say, on St. Patty's Day, 1992 men dressed as police were buzzed into the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum late at night. 81 minutes later, they left with a dozen pieces of art seemingly chosen at random but worth $200 million, which now I've heard they could be worth $600 million. So who knows?
I don't know.
It's just gonna keep going up. Worry the dog said the museum itself didn't have HVAC till just before the theft. That's like awful.
Yeah, I just seen that too. I was like, what the fuck, dude?
And that's in the 90s. That's not the 50s. Like, come on, people, get with the times.
This person, Pete the Raw Dog, I really liked the BuzzFeed Unsolved video that Shane Ryan did on it. It was a great covering of the basics. Facts, my guy.
I love watching BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Yeah, now they're at The Watcher, which is even better.
Yeah.
Because they're hilarious. So.
They're so funny.
Yeah, they do puppet history now and all that stuff, and it's great. Callous Snark said, I think they panicked when they realized just how much heat was on and they destroyed all the evidence. Thus, they have nothing to bargain with and everything to lose. Not only the prison time, but the extreme hatred towards them for destroying the art. They'll all go to their grave with this.
The Travel Girl says, he made two huge mistakes letting the cops in at all. Their protocol was to call the local station, clarify that the police had been sent, not to just let them in. And then leaving the area where he had access to a police call button, panic button. After he let them in, he could have pushed it, and if the royal cops came, it was fine, and if these guys were real, fine. But he did not do that.
Somebody said it. Okay, Fix says, what if the two men dressed up as police officers really were police officers? Thank you.
Yeah.
Please.
That could be.
Somebody said, the one queen responded to this and said, I thought the cops were involved too. Plus, when the eyewitnesses who walked by that night and saw them told the police what they saw, they made it seem like the police themselves were all acting sketchy. Wow.
C. Punkio says, my dude, don't forget that this was 1990. They had security firms to do recommendations and some implementation of what they recommended, like sensors, hard drives, CCTV, and VHS. This is what we had back then. I do agree that more was possible and that it's a cultural problem in all of security. Yeah, they could have clearly put cameras inside. But no, we're just gonna leave them outside.
Yapple Dapple said, when this happened, I suspected the IRA.
Yep, the damn IRA, they tax us too much.
The IRA had a lot of supporters in Boston at the time, supposedly. Makes sense.
Mo_dog1 says, the Pink Panthers is a great one to investigate. International thieves probably trained by com block armies traveling the world to steal jewelry from stores and famous. If the con man and incompetent curators look up Connecticut cult swindle, the state allowed them to be duped out of some of the most important firearms ever made. Or you could look into all the missing art from World War II.
Deleted said, I really liked it. My dad worked for an alphabet agency, and the interviews with some of the FBI agents gave you a really accurate idea of their investigative methods. At the end, I feel like we had a pretty good idea of where the paintings were and who took them, but that we will probably never get them back. The possible involvement of the guard is still a head scratcher for me. A stoned dead head Seems like he would spill the tea at some point, so maybe he was just targeted because the thieves knew he didn't give a shit about his job or security in general. I agree with the poster who said the wrapping job they did on his head had to be a joke. I almost snorted every time I saw it.
Oh my gosh. Your beat again says another theory. Just maybe one of the thieves is reading this right now.
No, they're probably long gone. Well, no, not long gone. They would have had to. I mean, like, they still could be around for sure. They may not be on the internet though. You know, 90s people. Like, you know, these were old people, I'm sure. Maybe young.
So now you're stereotyping the thieves as old people?
I mean, older. They're probably in their 30s or 40s. Maybe in their mid-20s.
What if it was a
but,
kid? What if it was like some teenage?
But even then, like, now they'd be in their, what, like 40s and
True,
50s?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd be older. Some people don't know how to use the internet.
Damn. My mom knows
Interesting.
how to use it.
My dad doesn't really.
Damn.
I kind of have to explain. He's figured out Facebook. That's good enough. And emails.
Your beat again also says most of the art in the Gardner was looted from Europe and smuggled into the U.S. It's just thieves robbing thieves. Imagine that.
Wow.
And then High Top Athletics says the paintings are in the basement of Rover Beach Kelly's roast beef.
What?
What in the world?
The most bizarre part of this is how much time was spent by people being perplexed why a stoned dude would buzz cops into a door that they're knocking on. Like, what the fuck?
He was probably stoned.
Yeah, even though he said he was sober.
He probably thought he was a painting.
Oh my god, that'd be so funny. I'm a painting. Just
He's like,
sticks
still
himself on the
me
wall.
too.
Oh my god, stop, you're done. That's funny. Oh no. To this day, the artwork hasn't been recovered, and the thieves got away with the robbery. Lucky them. We can only hope that one day this unbelievable mystery will be solved. For now, though, thank you for listening to another episode of Murders, Mysteries, and More. Remember to always keep your eyes open and keep your plots of robbing a museum to your fucking self.